Good evening, everybody. I will call to order the April 2nd, 2025 Planning Board meeting. If you could rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, so before we get into things here, we'll do some administrative board work. I've got approval of minutes. It sounds like Mr. Rugg has got some amendments he'd like to make to the minutes. So if we want, we can hold those off until.
They're too difficult, so I will give forth my amendments.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, the minutes of March 5th, 2025. Lines 302, 314, 323, 334, 345, 367, 386 should be an 800 vote. It was recorded as 700. There were 8 members present. No one had left. No one had stepped down or anything, so there had to be 8.
Perfect.
The only thing I have on the minutes of the 5th, so, Mr. Chair, I will move that we adopt the minutes of the 5th.
I have a question on the minutes before.
You had some stuff you wanted in there, Tony.
No, but that's all set, but I'm looking at headers, and I think they're backwards. So the header of the meeting of March 5th, I think is the 12th, because when I look at the meeting of the 12th, the header, March 12th, underneath, we're after call to order, approval of minutes, March 5.
That was the approval of the March 5th minutes
March 5th minutes
Yeah.
that we
themselves.
discussed on March 12th.
The February 5th minutes that we discussed on March 5th, I think.
Because in those minutes were you had changes you wanted,
Right,
I
but
think at the beginning.
the dates are mixed up though, aren't they?
I didn't
Not the
come
way I read
across
it.
that.
No? Okay.
No, so you look at the letter, it says March
The
12th.
header says March 12th.
So that's what that was our discussion, March 12th. We discussed
March
the March
5th,
5th
yeah.
minutes
Yeah.
on March 12th.
Oh,
Yes,
Because those are the
Thank
changes
you.
you wanted, Tony.
yes.
thank you. Yeah. And everything that needed to be there is there. I understand now. Yeah, I got it. Thank you. Sorry.
So, Mr. Chair, I will move that we adopt the minutes of March 5th, 2025, as presented and as amended.
I have a motion for Mr. Rugg. Do I have a
I'll
second?
second that, Mr.
I
Chair.
have a second for Mr. Wiles. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye. That's 800.
Chair votes in the affirmative. All right. And then, do you want to go with the other ones, Art, or do you want to send an email to Kelly?
Okay, I'll go with the 12th ones. Minutes of March 12th, 2025, on line 8, Ann Champa was indeed present, and she's not down there. Line 73 is, the word secretary is just dangling in the middle by itself. I don't know what that means or anything, but I would delete secretary to make, would sound sensible then. Line 78, we do need a member who seconded the motion. Anyone seconding that motion?
I made, Mr. D made the motion. This is for Art and Lynn to the CIP. Does anyone remember who seconded the motion for Art and Lynn to the CIP? Bueller?
Nope.
No. So we could probably go,
Notes, I probably have it.
yeah, we could probably go back into the,
I would go
video.
back and double check. Likewise with line 73, we need the second there, and line 173, same thing. No name for seconds, so there should be a name.
173.
So we'll do minutes of the 12th next week.
Oh, so there's nothing for motion either.
I see what you're
The
saying.
motion or the second doesn't have a name on
A
it.
motion was made and a second to adjourn the meeting. The motion was granted 9-0. So do you want, can you send your edits to Kelly, and then we
I
can,
have sent them to Alicia, so.
Alicia,
and
perfect, even
Somehow
better,
they didn't get through,
Great.
so.
even better,
Yeah,
so,
actually, they went to Alicia, to Kristen, and to Kelly.
perfect. So if we
Perfect.
can ask Alicia to just make those, or ask Alicia to ask Beth to make those adjustments.
We'll get it done, don't worry about it.
Fantastic.
Let me know when they're ready and I'll stop by and sign them.
Thank you.
And then was there a third set in there, or was it just those two?
Just those two.
Okay.
Where are the minutes of the 20th, the site walk, somewhere. I haven't
Yes,
seen
I
them yet.
neglected to put those in there, but we do have them.
Sure. So we'll just hit those,
Maybe send those out.
Yep.
do them next week. That's fine. Cool. All right. Regional impact determinations.
None this evening, Mr. Chair.
Discussions with town staff.
I'm all set.
Good.
All set?
Good? Fantastic. All right.
Was there something, let's see, Moose Hill
Oh, I'm sorry.
Estates?
You have an extension request. Thank you, Art.
Oh, yeah, that's for behind the fire department, right?
Yes.
Yep, you have an extension request
13 lot
for,
subdivision.
the 13 lot subdivision, that's also known as Moose Hill Estates. I believe they've asked for a 6-month extension.
To the 5th of October of '25.
So hold on one second here. All right, so I'm looking for a motion to grant an extension to October 5th, 2025 for the Moose Hill Estates subdivision, which we approved April 5th of 2023.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Second, Mr. Chair.
I have a motion by Art, I have a second by Lynn. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And chair votes in the affirmative. All right. We have no old business, so we are on to some new plans and some conceptual plans. The first one being a request for planning board recommendation for a building permit on a Class 6 road. James Smith Jr. and Samuel Smith are the owners. Russell Goldman is the applicant. This is 38 Jacksbridge Road, map 17, lot 42A, zoned AR1. If you are in the crowd and you want to come on up.
Chair,
Yes, sir.
recuse myself for this one.
And please note that Giovanni Varani has recused himself from this conversation. Good evening.
Good evening.
How are you?
I'm good, and yourself, Mr. Chairman?
I'm fantastic. The floor is yours.
Okay. For the record, my name is Patricia Panciaco. I'm here tonight to represent Russell Goldman, who is the applicant here. And here tonight with me is Bob Baskerville from Bedford Design Consultants, who has also provided assistance to Mr. Goldman. We're here to ask for planning board recommendations regarding a request for a building permit under 67441 for map 17, lot 42. There was a building permit, recommendations were provided from the planning board and sent to the town council, who approved the building permit being issued in 2016 for a former owner by the name of Carl. That was their last name. So under 67441, the town council actually issues the approval, but they do take the recommendations and concerns of the planning board to heart when, in most cases, when they do consider whether or not the building permit can issue. So in 2016, Mr. and Mrs. Carl did appear before this board on 2 different occasions, and then attended a town council meeting where they basically embraced all the planning board's recommendations and issued the building permit. That I will touch upon again later. But as to this particular property, its frontage is on a Class 6 road. Its address is 38 Jacksbridge Road. And this is on the side of Jacksbridge Road that connects with Page Road. It is an existing lot of record. It has approximately 8 acres. It's located in the AR1 zoning district. And it has approximately 370 feet of frontage on Jacksbridge Road. In 2004, there was a plan approved by the planning board that showed a number of the lots up in that general area of Londonderry were consolidated and lot lines were readjusted. The section of Jacks Bridge Road is shown on that map, and Bob is gonna show you that in a moment. There was, the area of Jacks Bridge Road that was discontinued appears to have been the length that goes through the wetland that's casually referred to as Brickett's Meadow, up to where the property occupied now by Harvey Industries is located. Generally speaking, that's the location of Jacks Bridge that was discontinued. During that meeting in 2004, the Carls did appear and expressed a concern to the town council that they would no longer have access to their land. But they were told they would still have access over Page Road, and Planagaren advised them that the access over Page and Lucas Road was satisfactory for residential lots. When Mr. and Mrs. Carl appeared before the planning board on the first meeting, which was in May 4th of 2016, zoning official Canuel explained to the planning board that its role was advisory in this case, and this is not a public hearing, because the planning board, as recognized in 674-41, is more well-versed with planning matters, has the right to raise safety concerns, and consider whether a new single-family home on a Class 6 road would be considered scattered and premature. But the board readily concluded, because there are other homes almost immediately adjacent to this particular parcel, scattered and premature did not apply. So Canuel also advised that in Londonderry, because this is an existing lot of record, no zoning relief would be required before a building permit could be issued for this property. All of this advice provided by code enforcement official Canuel was wholly consistent with the statute at that time. The second meeting was a little bit different, but before we get to that, I'd like to have Bob give you a little overview of the property and the condition of the road. He's been out there a couple of times, and he can probably get you up to speed on that.
If I stand, will you be able to hear me?
You would have to
Bring
stay
the
speaking into the
microphone,
mic. Just bring it with you if you can.
Okay.
Yeah.
Stick it up right in the corner of it.
If you could. There you go. Thank you.
I'm good holding it.
Perfect.
This first plan I have is very similar to what you see up on the screen. I just want a layout of Rockingham Road, Route 28, 93, the Manchester-Londonderry town line. So you've got Page Road that comes up to an intersection with Lucas going into Manch, and then Page Road going here that somewhere in here turns into Jacks Bridge Road. And then the plans that Pat was talking about were when the industrial park was being done. Jacks Bridge Road used to run down and connect. As part of this approval, they discontinued Jacks Bridge from here up to their property line, which is a major wetland crossing. Then I zoom in a little bit. Very similar to what the last one was. Just a little closer, this is Lucas Road. You got a house here with a driveway onto Page. I think there's 3 houses here with driveways onto Page and 2 barns. There's 5 structures and 5 or 6 driveways. Most of them built in the past 25 years, some pretty recent. The road is 14 to 16 feet of gravel from the intersection of Lucas up to this barn. And it's in very good condition, very drivable. There's another 1,000 feet from here up to the corner of our lawn. Still drivable, but it's basically grass and leaves. And I'll just bring it up now, it's kind of confusing. Addresses, Page Road, Page Road, which goes all the way down to this, these have addresses of Jack's Bridge Road. So even across the street from each other, you've got the issue of where does Page end and where does Jack's Bridge start. But that's an issue for the fire department and post office, and something maybe we can look at later. Going a little closer, there's a good quality 15-foot road that goes up the right-of-way to here. And at this spot, it goes into a relatively new-looking barn, so it leaves the right-of-way. I went out lap before when there was snow on the ground and again Saturday and it was clear, and walked it from here out to the corner of the property. It's in good condition. It's a little steep here, but it's close enough to the property that we can make that work. It's a matter of, can I get a 15-foot gravel road in there? Yeah. You know, I'd have to go through town staff, all the necessary permits. The land is quite nice. There's a nice high spot right here. I show this coming in far enough with a fire truck and pull up, have a big enough turnaround where they could back into the driveway, and then they could go out and forward. And I think my understanding what they asked for was a good turnaround so the fire department can turn around out here. And the house would probably be right about here. I have one more just showing the topography of the area, a nice high spot on the lot here. It's a very nice lot. There's one other lot past it. Actually, this is all one big lot. So in reality, this is the last normal-sized building lot. And then from this point on, Jack's Bridge was discontinued. So there's really very little possibility of other houses out there until these get developed, if they ever do. What Pat was talking about, I want to say it's 2004, yep. So Evco Corporation did a plan for the industrial park, and they did a very good quality survey from Lucas all the way down through. There's spots where it's a variable width right away, just out to the existing stone walls. Somehow some of these had a layout, like that meets and bounds and a curve. So they show a very good survey layout all the way out to here, which is the corner of our property. And that's when I would go in this way. So I've talked to a wetland scientist to flag all the wetlands in our lot and in the road. I've got the topography. I need to find out what standard I would design it to. We haven't done a full design yet because I don't have a standard. But it certainly all looks doable. I've got one more sheet of it here. This just shows, this is where the industrial park is. So there's a note on this that this portion of the road was discontinued in May of 2004. So from here down, the road does not exist. This is the lot we're looking at. This looks like a lot here, but this is all part of one big lot, 91 acres. So we're really the last house lot that's not a big lot on Jack's Bridge. Questions?
Mr. Rugg.
Do you have the right-of-way marked out up there?
Not yet. When you walk it, I haven't actually done the survey yet. This is a very good quality plan. It shows the right-of-way all the way out here being the stone walls, and the nice, good size historical stone walls. So it's all marked out to here. When you walk it through here, there's still stone walls and a very clear path to walk in. Once you get to our property, for some reason, the stone walls end. But I found a pin off the property right here. So I would have to have my guys go out, and so I have a short stretch here that it's not per this plan. They just said historically it wasn't laid out per a survey plan. I would have to do an in-depth survey to make sure where we are. But the cost to do the surveying is pretty extensive. We want to make sure that, are we on board with the general direction before he spends a lot of money on surveying, engineering, etc.
Mr. D.
Thank you. So, just to be clear, you mentioned that there's a 90-acre parcel there. And
This plan shows it as 91.5 5?
Okay,
Yeah.
so be it. You can put a house on 91 acres.
That's not my lot.
No, I understand that, but.
Oh, yes, yes,
Right.
exactly.
But you kind of made it sound like that was
Quotes,
a single-family lot.
right.
Understood.
Our lot will be a single-family lot.
Thank you.
I'm kind
So-
of assuming eventually that'll be something else.
But,
sorry
but
about
you,
it.
but you could put a home on that 91.5 acre lot,
Yes, you could.
somewhere on
But
there.
that,
Just,
that lot,
just to clear the air on that.
yeah, that lot goes all the way up past where the barn is.
So,
Right.
the second thing is, I was there, today, for quite a bit. And you and I are probably gonna disagree on the definition of the word good.
Okay.
Okay, you said that the road that doesn't exist from the newly formed barn onto the lot that we're talking about,
Uh-huh.
that the condition was good.
I thought I used the word good.
I would disagree with that,
I thought I used good from Lucas Road to the barn.
yeah.
The gravel is in good shape.
From the barn,
Once you go past that, it's
Proposed-
just a grass.
Yeah, I think he said
Thank you.
grass and leaves.
I said grass and leaves.
thank
So
you.
I meant good quality gravel up to the barn, which is about here. But past that, it's just a discontinued town road, grass and leaves.
Thank you for clearing that up. Thank
Yep.
you, appreciate it.
I can talk too fast sometimes, so I'm,
So a couple of questions. Number
Yeah.
one is I went to Google Maps, just looked up Jack's Bridge Road.
Yeah.
And the only thing that it shows is south of the window factory.
the industrial park, et cetera.
So my first thought is, I think you gotta change the name. Work with the 911 folks or something like that. I don't see that being a viable path forward. That's my opinion there.
And the
On
reason
the
I
road.
mentioned it, your town records, your property sheets show several of these with a Jack's Bridge address. So yeah, that's gotta be worked out with.
So I get it. So I have a class 6 road abutting my property. There's a house on the class 6 road behind my house, right? So I'm familiar with the situation. The road's not as long, it's 700 feet, but it's, so I know what my neighbor lives with and everything like that. So I go back to the road from the barn out to the piece of property. And the plan was originally presented with originally approved with a 20-foot wide driveway. I'm going to call it a driveway, not a road.
Yes, okay.
And I think you got a variance to go to 15 from that through the ZBA. So I have a record showing that it went to the ZBA to get a 15-foot wide.
It was an
Variance?
administrative appeal of the conditions that the plant, I can explain what we got there.
No, my point is,
It was relieved to 15 feet.
Yeah.
You
Hold
are
on
correct.
Yeah,
one sec.
that's
Kelly?
fine.
I just want to clarify one point. So we keep using the term road when we're talking about this area. It's not going to be a road. Technically, we would view it as a driveway,
I
which
agree.
is why the fire department has the final say or authority, if you will, on the width.
Yep.
Into in the condition of the road, or of the driveway,
Right.
sorry. There I go. Thank you, John.
She pipes up to clear us all, and then she
Right?
calls it a roadway.
Yes.
But the
With
name's
respect to the
Jacksbridge Road.
variance, yes, it was an appeal of, essentially of the conditions that were imposed on the building permit approval by the council conditioned that building permit approval on.
so my understanding is that appeal has gone away,
Correct, it's
right?
expired.
It's expired?
It was
All gone.
any ZBA decision has a 2-year timeframe in which it needs to be acted upon.
Yep.
Obviously, nothing was ever done out here or built out here, and so it is expired.
Yep, so
Yeah.
I would assume the applicant's looking at doing the same process. So then my other question, I haven't been out there to walk it, and I think I would like to go out and do that as well. It's a nice piece of property just to go out for a stroll. But what is the width that's out there that's existing right now? And are there swales on either side of the old roadbed? My concern is with drainage and with snow, and snow storage. My neighbor has a constant problem with snow storage. And, you go down to a 15-foot driveway, I don't know if the trees come right up to the edge or what you have for extra space out there.
There's like 4 different answers there. There's the width of the right-of-way and the width of the gravel. And I'll go over both. So in this stretch, the stretch up where the houses are, this plan shows it, the right-of-way going to the stone walls. So instead of it being 33 feet, you call it a two-rod road, but it's really, it varies on where the stone walls are laid
Yep.
down. So it's a variable width right away. I eyeballed it for most of it, from the car going down it, and it looked like it was 14 to 16 feet of gravel. But it's a gravel road that's been paved snowplowed for decades, so it kind of flares out at the end. But 14 to 16 feet of,
You're
Well, I-
talking,
That's the
you're
existing.
talking 14 to 16 feet of the existing gravel road.
of the
correct?
existing gravel that's in
okay.
good shape,
Yep.
not counting that little stuff that kind of peters out at the edge.
Yep.
Once I get down here, I didn't actually look, but I'm sure they call it a two-rod road, or they made it a 50-foot right-of-way. There's actually a layout here, and they show the old road going down the center of it. What's there now is in between the stone walls here, there's very little trees. I'm sure some of the trees in this right-of-way will probably have to get cut. There's no ditches in here. There's no existing gravel. I'll have to work all the drainage out with the fire chief and town staff,
Okay.
which may not be easy, which is another reason why I told them, don't tackle this until you get to first base.
Yep. So just, my observation is, just be very concerned about snow storage.
Yes.
And make sure you have room to put it somewhere, because if you don't, then what good is it?
Right.
And, and then you always have the same problem with, the improved part of the driveway right now on Page Road down from the barn, from Page to the barn, and that is, it's basically somebody's driveway today.
Yes.
So I would assume that you have to make some type of arrangements with them to share the maintenance of that, because that would be the only right thing to do.
I had a strong conversation with the owner saying, once we get past first base, he needs to sit down. Because on this last 1,000 feet, well, it's just him. He's the
Yep.
only house out there.
Yep.
He's got to pave it, plow it, maintain it, everything. Past that, he's sharing a driveway.
Yep.
You really want to sit with your neighbor, have a discussion, come to an agreement. Even though there's multiple houses there, I don't think there's a written agreement, because it's all family.
Right.
So I think with its family, you don't need an agreement. They probably want some type of agreement. And the same thing where the gravel goes into the barn now. Well, it doesn't come off at a 90, it just goes right up there. So, you gotta kind of flare it in and get it to work right. Cooperation is key, so he needs to sit down with them and be a
John.
good neighbor.
Where does the town's maintenance stop?
At Lucas Road,
So at the 90 degree.
yeah.
Yeah,
So it's privately,
everything
so
in
it's
yellow.
really a driveway
Yeah,
from
it's
Lucas
a
Road
driveway.
forward.
Driveway.
Right.
It's a driveway from Lucas
Driveway.
Road forward. It's not a road.
Yep.
Everything. I'll be careful. It's a class 6 road per state definition,
It's
but it's really a driveway.
It's a
private
driveway.
It's a driveway, but the owner, but the abutters don't own the road, or the
Correct.
driveway. have
They
to
don't own
maintain
the
it,
road, the driveway, but they have to maintain
But they
it.
have to maintain it.
What a predicament that is, huh?
I have to have a list of definitions.
I'm all set. I'm all set.
Anything else from the board?
Thank you.
I'll let Ann go, because she
Okay,
hasn't gone
let
yet.
Ann go first.
Since I was here in 2016 to hear it originally, and back then I asked about the condition of the right-of-way as you move east on the road. And Mr. Trottier, this is after the barn, Trottier said that there is no road after the barn. Have conditions improved at all since way back? 16?
There's no constructed road.
Okay.
She might explain it. You got it, the right of way is there for the Old Town Road, but there's no road there.
But what you're saying is you
Right.
can see the right of way.
You can see
The
the
right of way
right-of-way.
is visible. There's no
Yeah.
road there, but you can see the right
You
of way.
got,
See
you
where
got
it
a
went.
pickup truck and four-wheel drive, you can get right down to the
Yeah.
spot. But there's no gravel, there's no pavement, there's no road construction.
So I think Bob's agreeing with my statement.
Yes.
I am.
Yes.
Okay,
I just
good.
use many more words.
Absolutely.
We're always talking about 20-foot wide fire trucks. Are we talking about that now? I mean, we're
think
talking
it's,
about not 20-foot wide roads to be put in here.
That's Brian Johnson.
Again, if I can refresh the board's memory here, all you're doing is you're going to be giving a recommendation to the town council, who will ultimately be issuing the building permit. What Kelly and I have discussed, as well as with the fire department, this allows Mr. Goldman to present to you people this evening, and we're gonna go back to, with town staff And back in 2016, you're gonna see what the staff's, conditions that we had put, were recommended to the planning board, and they followed
it
those
right here.
recommendations.
Can you give a brief overview of what those recommendations were?
Yeah, I certainly can. It's in your packet.
Yes,
Well-
I'm hoping that you can give I realize it's in my packet, but the public doesn't have a packet at home, so I'm hoping
So
you can
input
reiterate it
from,
for 'em.
I'm just gonna hit the major.
Thank you.
Input from the fire
thank you.
department with respect to access, so touching on turnarounds, which the applicant recognized, width of the road.
Driveway.
Width of the driveway, I'm gonna keep screwing it up now. Addressing the wetlands, studying them, certifying where they are. Stormwater management, the residents should have a sprinkler system for the structure. And the issue that Lynn raised as far as the address and it being Page Road.
Mr. D.
John, to answer Ann's question, a driveway has a different standard than a road. So because
correct.
from the barn to that property, 1,000-ish feet, give or take, is a driveway. And it will be a driveway standard, not a road standard.
Correct.
Correct.
Thank you.
What is the driveway standard?
It's still 18 inches of crushed gravel.
18 inches of crushed gravel.
Remember, they're driving
Yeah,
a
is there
fire
a
truck.
width requirement to it?
Again, back then it was 12 foot clear width of 12 feet for each lane, excluding the shoulders. So basically, it's a 24-foot wide,
A driveway has lanes to it?
well, again, this is Brian's, this is the fire department's.
Yeah, I'm
No,
just
but-
asking a question, because I've never
NFPA.
seen a driveway with
Yeah,
lanes
it's
before.
based on the NFPA standard.
Yes.
They call it lanes, Jake, in my opinion, because again, there is a possibility of a truck and an ambulance passing.
Yep.
So they call it a lane.
So, just out of curiosity, I don't understand how that applies. I don't know a single 24-foot wide driveway in Londonderry.
So again, because of the nature of my understanding is the nature of how far that is off the beaten path. Again, fire department typically doesn't see something that's 2,000 feet off a town-maintained road, right? They gotta go through the first maintain where the houses are. And I think we will get Mr. Johnson here
Oh, yeah, I mean, I
Yeah.
think we'll
so he can
we'll
speak
certainly want
more
some,
intelligently about NFPA.
we'll certainly
and stuff.
want some input from Mr. Johnson on it.
So I thought I
I
saw-
would say though, I'm just looking at my street alone, there's an 800-foot driveway on my street, and it's probably 9 feet wide, all 800 feet. So I guess I'm not fully understanding the 24-foot need. Also with there being, to me, it's, the driveway's like 15 or 16 feet now. Can't you just make it 15 or 16 feet the rest of the way up? Throw a turnaround in it, that's all I'm wondering.
Yeah, it seems to me, I thought I read somewhere, and it actually might not be this town, that after so many feet of driveway, you had to have a turnout.
Yeah, that would
So
make
that
sense.
if something's coming the other way, the one that's going this way can turn out, and every, I don't know. I can't
Probably like
remember.
every 1,000 feet or something.
No, it was something like every 250 feet.
Oh, really? Huh?
I
Yeah.
thought I read something.
And I think that, Tony, is a NFPA requirement.
Yeah.
We'll have Brian bring his books.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm sure things might have changed in the past 9 years as far as those standards are concerned. So
Correct.
we'd like to know about them.
Yep.
I think back in 16, the only ones on here were Ann, Lynn, and myself.
I wasn't, that was when I was at my hiatus, so.
Oh, okay, so it was Ann and I.
So,
I remember walking it, and if you want to know, in the town archives someplace, there's a video of the whole length of Jacks Bridge Road that was done by Darren O'Brien, who was fire chief at the time, and Al Sypek, who was the vice chair at the time. So it would be good for the board to review that. Maybe, Kelly, you could provide it for the board to either view somewhere or to send by email if it is possible, so. It is a good video, and it gives you a good.
Or you can go do it
Yeah.
live.
Yeah, I think from 2006 to now, a lot of stuff has probably changed on both Jacksbridge Road and Page Road, so I don't know that it would be, I would rather ask the board to go out there and take a look at it. But I guess from my standpoint would be, let's ask Brian what his recommendation is, and then from that, we can work on something. His recommendation may be 24 feet wide. I don't know that I, as one person, necessarily agree with that, but I do think there should be provisions in there for inappropriate turnaround for apparatus. I just don't see the Olive Page Road is probably a whopping 18 feet wide for a good mile of it anyway, so why are we gonna go down a mile of 18 feet of road to then go to 24? Just doesn't really make sense to me. So I think a reasonable solution in making sure there's turnarounds for fire apparatus is probably something that,
They're wayward travelers.
yeah, it's probably something that we could get behind. That's probably the reason why they had a sprinkler system requirement for the house, that type of thing, because of the access, so.
Yeah, I think, Mr. Chair, if we let Attorney Pansiaco
Yeah.
finish her presentation, it
Yeah.
might answer a lot of the questions that are rolling around in our heads right now.
Yeah, I can do that, that's fine.
Thank you.
Okay, so to continue the story, there was a second planning board meeting on June 1st of, it was June of 2016. And the board touched on a lot of different points. By then, they had gone out and taken a walk out there and saw the site. When they sent their recommendations to the town council, talking about the fire department, they did recommend compliance with NFPA 1141, 24 feet wide, turnarounds at every 1,200 feet. The surface sufficient to hold the weight of the trucks, and maximum slopes at 6%. Now, a fire code, just to touch upon this, is much like your zoning ordinance. It has provisions in it for what they call variances, just like the zoning code. And with that point in mind, there were no variances granted at that time, but then this was recommendations. So they recommended compliance with this particular code. They also wanted to have the right-of-way surveyed, which we understand the importance of that, but was very non-specific. All improvements within the right-of-way, which we've already talked about. And easements might be required from the butters. Once again, the 24 feet would create a problem. The wetland impacts should be delineated. Those weren't necessarily an issue. They wanted the waiver of liability, but they also wanted a waiver for damages to town equipment if the town had to come out and rescue somebody. Then they wanted stormwater controls. So when these recommendations, though, went to the town council, that's when it went off the rails, because the town manager at that time advised the town council, and this is right in the minute, that they could not issue the building permit without requiring all the planning board's recommendations as conditions to the building permit issuing. So with that said, given the lengthy list of recommendations this board appropriately made, the Carls appealed that decision to the zoning board. The zoning board reversed everything and told them 15-foot wide gravel width, and that was the only condition that was left, other than the other conditions such as the weight of the trucks and changing the address, things that didn't impose a real heavy financial hardship to build on a single building lot. So at the end of the day, that was where this decision ended up, is a 15-foot wide gravel road. It did need to have some sort of turnaround, of course, for the trucks to turn around, but the 24-foot width that was recommended by the fire chief was gone. And the basis of that was that they couldn't require and impose conditions from this particular lot owners that were not applied on the other end of the road that is already developed, where the houses are. And there were a lot of constitutional arguments that supported that. So in very short order, Attorney Brunel reversed its decision at the zoning board. So that's why it ended up reversed, is because the town council, is according to the minutes, really didn't even read the recommendations. It just said, add them as conditions, approve the building permit, and you're done. So that's where we ended up. And I think that with that, we're here tonight to ask for the same approval that was approved in 2016. We understand there may be some changes to different codes that may have occurred since then, but there really hasn't been a whole lot of change to the land out there. And the basis of the administrative appeal is totally valid. All the arguments that were raised to them is applying a standard that was applied to nobody else in town to this particular lot still stand. So, in essence, what we're really asking is to follow RSA 674-41. It allows access to land over streets in 4 different categories. Class 5 or better public highways, streets shown on your official map, on a town street map, a plan approved by the planning board, or a plan approved by the zoning board or the governing body before the planning board was authorized. And the last category would be a street that was accepted by the planning board if authorized under 674-40A. The last category is a class 6 road or a private road. And this is what we have here. We also have the layout of this particular road shown on a recorded plan. So it actually falls into another section of the statute qualifying for a building permit. We do want the board's recommendations, but the recommendations, we will have to remind the town council, have to be constitutionally sound and be reasonable. We're talking about one single-family home here. For the record, my client has reached out to the other property owners on Page Road to ask, to let them know if he is successful. He does want to reach an agreement on the maintenance. These parties know each other to some extent, and there is a great willingness to work together through what is really just to build one single-family home here, be reasonable, and get along. Again, we're looking for the board's guidance here. We also know there is one area of wetland, and Bob can probably tell you where that is, that will need to be crossed with that improved area. And we're looking for guidance there as to who would be authorizing the submission of a wetland permit. Would it be the town, or would it be the property owner who owns the underlying fee interest in the road? So with that said, I'm not sure whether I can answer any questions for anybody, or if there's other information we haven't provided you that you would like to have here, or whether you want to do a site walk, or...
If I can add one thing, I met with a wetland scientist today, got a price, asked him to do this, et cetera, et cetera. And I said, how does that work? And DES rules can be kind of vague. They're in the process of rewriting everything now. They're so confusing. He made it sound there's a form that the town signs. It says, we are okay with this person updating or upgrading the town road. So there is a process for this at DES. I didn't look at the form, but they have a process when an individual upgrades land in a town right away.
And one other thing to mention, since my client met with staff about approaching this subject with the town boards, he met with the state fire marshal on the site. I was not there, but he took this fire marshal out, walked up the area beyond the barn, where you really can't see any physical road. And her question to him was, the fire chief has the authority to vary or grant variances from the fire code. Why are you asking me? So she was not opposed to the access here being reduced as far as the width. We understand it has to be strong enough to take care of carrying the vehicles. And we're willing to work with the fire department, but at the end of the day, there is a mechanism to deal with these unique situations, because a 24-foot wide driveway or going to a single lot is a substantial financial hardship. Okay, thank you.
Anything from the board? All right, how do we want to proceed with some feedback for him?
Can
We
I
didn't
ask
have a
one
public hearing
question?
on this.
No,
By any chance, does that road have town water?
no,
No.
no.
Just asking for the
Yeah,
record.
but it's all over the road.
Yeah, the dirt road.
Mr. Chair, I just want
Yes,
to kind of just remind the board that tonight's meeting is just intended to allow the applicant to present.
Correct,
Where this is not a public hearing.
correct.
With the applicant will need to come back for a formal public hearing. Speaking as one board member, I did hear through this presentation a lot of he said, she said type of stuff, so I do need to confirm that, trust but verify. A site walk might be something to consider, whether we do it individually or as a group. But there's a lot here to unpack. I wasn't on the board in 2016. I respect the members that were, but that kind of holds no water to me. So those recommendations will need to be the recommendations from my seat that I would want to kind of put into that. So I do, there's a lot of trust but verify
That's fine.
that we do need to kind of go for here.
We have no problem with that, but I see nothing in the statute requiring a public hearing for the planning board to provide its recommendations. There may be a different approach with the town council, but I don't see anything in this statute requiring notice in a public hearing. This is about a building permit issuing on a Class 6 road for a single building lot. And
So whether it's, okay.
you can check with your town attorney, we're perfectly fine with that, but I see nothing in the statute requiring a public hearing. And actually, Code Enforcement Officer Cannuel told the board that in 2016.
Again, I wasn't here in 2016.
I understand, but it's
And I
in
just
the minutes.
received this information this afternoon, so I am
understand. I'm just
responding in
saying.
kind.
Kelly, can you give some input to the,
So I would agree that it's not a formal requirement per the statute to hold a hearing. I think historically, we've done that practice just for good measure. It's not required. And so when we say noticing for a public hearing, we would not do an abutter notification. It would just be a legal notice in the paper.
yeah, but it's not required
But
to
it's not
us.
required. I would agree with that. At the planning board level, it is required at the
town council.
town council level.
And thank you, Kelly. And I think part of the reason why I want to take those steps is because we've done that in the past. There's historical kind of records of that, and I want to take consistent, I want to ensure that as a member, when I'm sitting on this board, we are consistent and
Just-
and treat all applicants at the same.
One other point, so the fee associated with noticing that, we wouldn't charge the applicant for that. We would handle that because it's our decision to do that.
Fair enough.
Considered rural, right?
What?
It's considered rural, sorry. It's considered a rural road, or is it not considered a rural road, is my
Is
question.
it like a paper road?
No,
or-
no, there's different code for the driveways when it comes to rural or urban. I'm just wondering, are we considering this rural or urban driveway?
It's in a rural
It's
area.
different, there's different code to the state of Massachusetts for rural or urban driveway.
Not
why I asked.
not
I
in
don't
New
think there's any
Hampshire.
distinction in New Hampshire. There isn't no
Reading the code
distinction
right
here.
One more point, Mr. Chair. And I apologize that just getting this afternoon, I probably should have thought of this earlier. Would this go to ZBA?
No.
Not unless,
If they
Not
don't like what
unless-
you
not
said.
unless you did the same
Yeah.
situation as previously, meaning if the applicant was unsatisfied with the conditions that the council placed on an approval,
Then
the
it would go to
process
the
is to go to the ZBA, but no, it doesn't require ZBA approval.
So, I mean, I have no I can understand and see what you're talking about, Jeff, with a public hearing, but I don't know that we've had any sort of case like this that's specific to this, that we've had a public hearing before on something that's really just an advisory recommendation of the council, because then essentially this applicant's being heard twice, which is.
Yeah, but I think, Mr. Chair, that to Jeff's point, whether we've done it before or not, whatever, I personally would feel more comfortable before this board made a recommendation to town council to hear maybe what an abutter said
That's
or
fair.
what the general public had to say. I think the more that you can hear from the general public, the better off you are. That's one person's opinion.
That's fair.
And at that time, what the board did want was public opinion for input, but also from staff, so we don't get into the he said, she said thing. We can hear it directly from staff of what they're saying. We even have our attorney here also.
I don't
Or-
think we need to bring our attorney here for this.
Yeah.
I would prefer not to spend the town's money on a driveway permit with
So
an
only just a
attorney.
little,
I would
just a
agree.
little- just a little bit of advice, that's all.
My own 2 cents.
Question.
Yes,
If-
sir.
If this gets, if we approve this in a driveway, I'm still thinking about the rest of
Well,
the acreage.
just to be clear,
We're not
we.
approving.
No,
we
if it
wouldn't
gets
approve
approved by
anything.
the town
Town
council, right, as a
all
driveway.
We are just making a
Right,
recommendation.
But if a driveway goes in,
Yep.
it can't be turned into a road, correct? Because we have a lot of other acreage around here, and that's, so I guess what I'm saying is we approve it as, we don't approve it. It gets, they put a driveway in, and then now somebody wants access to their acreage over here.
Yeah.
Then does this driveway possibly become a road then?
They
You're
could,
saying in the future, does,
I mean, because we're locking the land, we have some, it's basically gonna lock in the rest of this land, pretty much, unless you make that into a road.
well,
Mr.
that
Chair?
land all has frontage on Page Road.
And it's a road today.
Yeah,
It is
it's
a
a
class
road
six
today.
road.
on this, just
Yeah.
so Ryan, again, so if somebody wanted to build, subdivide further, and they wanted to construct a road to make it a class 5 road, then they'd have to go through
The whole process.
the
all
whole
over.
process, yeah. So do you make, and can you build it, a town road within the confines of those stone walls? Highly unlikely. So again, so that's where, again, you better be careful, because you're right. You're gonna let this guy do it. What about the next guy to the left and to the right? You let him get away with a 15-foot wide road, or driveway,
Driveway.
excuse me.
I was gonna say.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Hold on.
I guess
But
what
this
I'm
is
saying
the
is,
thing.
does it
Let's
turn
stop
into
using
op-
the word roadway? You're talking two totally different things. This is a driveway. It is
But
not
what,
a roadway.
what Ryan is asking, though, can that be upgraded in the future to a roadway?
Right, 'cause to-
That's what he's asking.
I would
Right.
assume it can, no?
There's a process to
Yeah.
go through, but the request can be made, yes.
Correct.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying, we just have to think about that,
Yes.
because we know how these paper streets become other roads, and then all these other things come on it, which is great. I love the building Londonderry.
Oh, yeah.
I'm just saying, we just have to think
Correct.
about the rest of those acreage and how those will be used. We don't, and this will probably help them, but we might see this road come up, this driveway come up again.
Right.
Looking
And-
at the GIS,
And as you're
all
saying,
all of the lots around it are abut up to Page Road, so they probably wouldn't need this anyways if
Yeah,
they wanted to.
they
do it.
have the frontage on Page Road.
except the couple that you see
Yeah,
there,
there's one
though.
in the rear. Jack's Bridge,
1741 and
yeah.
1736.
Yeah, so they would all have access to the driveway that Mr. Goldman would be constructing.
Yeah, so there's a potential for 2 additional single-family houses to be put on this driveway.
I'd be careful, again, becoming driveway and roadway experts. That's why you have staff, professionals that go back to the rules and the regulations that say, this is what it needs to be.
You love calling us not experts in the nicest way possible.
Well, I'm not.
Cracks me up. I know. It's
Just,
just,
uh,
he
just
does
wanna
it in the
confirm that.
nicest way possible.
We're
So-
not engineers.
Next steps, if you
Cameras
want
on.
So,
a sidewalk, or do you want to handle that individually? If you handle it individually, we don't need to notice it as such.
Individually.
Individually.
It's
Yeah, I
obvious,
don't see
it's
a
obvious
yeah,
what's
this
there.
is, yeah.
So
it's
from a
little different
timing
than the last one.
standpoint, what I'm getting is you would like Division Chief Johnson to come in, and you would like the applicant to come back.
I think what I'm hearing, which I've gotten from Jeff and Mr. D here, is that they would like to hold a public hearing
Okay.
on
On this topic.
on this driveway addition.
Building permit
building
recommendation
permit
to the council.
recommendation. Thank you very much, Kelly. I appreciate it. I would ask that we have a representative from our fire department here
Okay.
for that meeting. And does anybody disagree with that? That's pretty much what I feel like I'm hearing. I know Jeff said it, and then I
Yep,
made a
so
comment.
reiterated it a few times.
Mr. D helped drive home the public input side of things. So, is everybody comfortable with that?
Yeah,
I
what
just think it's been
request
so
I-
long.
Yeah, yeah, one request I have with the, when we do walk it, is at least some markings for where the right-of-way is, or at least an estimation on your part where the right-of-way is. That'll give us an idea.
I believe it was a stone wall. Isn't that that's the right of way?
Not past the,
No, not
not
necessarily.
no, there's nothing there.
If I can volunteer, there's a stone wall all the way through this and a very clear path. What if I flag it where our property starts? I found a property pin here. What if I flag it up really good where our property starts, you know? Because when you're walking down that road, where's this property start?
Yeah,
That'd be great.
yeah, that's
So I
fine.
think it's very clear walking up here, and then I can flag property line just so you know, from here out, this is where it starts.
Yeah.
And if
that
anybody
wall-
wants me to walk it with them, just to say it's here, point stuff out, I'd be glad to.
If that wall is actually the right-of-way,
What I found a survey pin here, which is shown on this plan.
just to be argumentative, I could walk out there and find 20 pins in about a half hour, and so could you. So I'm just saying, it hasn't been surveyed. You're guessing that the rock wall is the right-of-way, and you're guessing that that pin is actual.
There's a recorded plan,
It's surveyed.
which the town used to consolidate and discontinue some of the roads, that lays out the road, shows the property corners, meets bounds, distances, and pins.
Yeah.
So I'm using a pin that's from a plan that I think is approved by the town and recorded to the
You
registry.
haven't, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And I apologize, it's just it's what I am.
Yeah,
You did not cite that pin.
I did
And you-
not place the
And you have
plan.
not, and you have not triangulated to find that pin yourself.
Correct.
It probably is, but we
Okay.
don't know that to be fact. And we don't know, I was a kid once, we were all kid once, we pull those pins, we pull the cement out, just to move it around, just to be jerks, because.
Legal, you know.
I think that's a, I think it's a.
Sergeant Cruz is in.
Sergeant Cruz is not
Not
in the
without
building,
doing
so
a
it's-
full survey.
but, I'm just saying, we don't know
I
anything
would,
right now.
I
we're
would just be
guessing.
marking up this plan.
You would just be going off that plan, though. No, you would be verifying that plan, essentially.
Eventually, I'm gonna go and survey the whole thing and verify it all.
Yeah.
You know, right now, I can mark up what's on this plan for my surveyor to stamp it with a note saying, this is it. He would have to go out, as you said, and check all of this and do whatever survey he needs. You know, I'm sure we're gonna go out and survey our whole lot, find the corners. So did we locate that? No.
But you'd have to do the whole you'd have to do the whole driveway as well, right?
We
You'd still.
will
you'd
survey it all.
Confirm that those rocks
Right.
haven't been moved in the last 10 years, 12
The
years.
surveyor should go out per survey standards and existing plans of record, locate the walls, locate where they are, make sure they meet previous records, that it doesn't look like it's been adjusted, and they have to apply all the standard survey rules they follow to say that, yes, this is the right of way, and we will do that.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Anything else from the board before we wrap it up?
Just one question.
I can't do it in the next 30 days. Probably not.
Can't we show what's on that plan
I can
for
do
the
that.
sidewalk? I don't think it's gonna change a whole lot, but then if
Right.
this goes forward,
Mhm.
we do the full plan. I think the idea was to come in and meet with the board and have it be subject to true verification. I don't know, and to save the expense of a full survey, which
yeah,
is
I think-
thousands and thousands
I
of
think what I'm
dollars.
hearing is the applicant very much anticipates and plans on and would have to do a full survey, but they don't want to do the footwork if they're just gonna get a no recommendation from us and a no recommendation from the council.
And I understand that
Yeah.
completely. Just for the record, I
Yeah,
just wanted to say.
you want it verified.
No, what I want to say, we don't know if that pin is what it looks like it is, because it hasn't been I'm not asking them to do a survey.
Yeah,
There's a whole bunch of assumptions that are going on here that are probably true, but we don't know that.
correct.
And we do things based on fact.
Could be, well, the board is not being asked to make a decision at any point in time, just make recommendations.
Right, and we take, and Attorney Pansiaco, I can't stress enough how serious we take our job here, and how serious it is when we take our votes and we formulate our opinions. We do that, we don't take that lightly at all. And so we need to be very certain of what it is we're saying yes or no to, what it is we're making a recommendation on, what we think is right or not right, in protecting not only the applicant, because we understand that the applicant has rights as well, but we also have to protect the abutters and the rest of the citizens of Londonderry. And we take that very seriously. And so for us to formulate an opinion right now that's gonna go to the town council for a vote, I personally, as one person, I don't have enough information. I wasn't on the board back then. I know this case, I know this land, but I was not on the board. And so for me to vote and have an opinion, I need more information, and I would like to hear from the abutters, to hear what they have to say, and I would like to hear from any other concerned citizens, and hear what they have to say at all. And I don't think that that's unreasonable.
It's not unreasonable. What I'm suggesting is that if Bob can mark the center line, which may vary a few inches or a foot on either side, just so the board has a general sense within, I mean, you're talking a 20-foot wide width of where the right-of-way is. Is that satisfactory for a sidewalk, is my question. Because a full survey is.
I don't think it's necessary.
You
I
don't
you
think the
need-
full survey?
I was there today. You can tell that there's something there.
Okay, so you don't need it marked?
I don't think so.
Okay.
No, and I
That's
was not
fine.
suggesting
I'm just
that.
trying to be clear so we
I
know
wasn't
what the
suggesting
board needs.
No.
And the only thing I thought the board could use is if you're walking down the road, you don't know where the lot
The
starts.
pin to the start of the lot would be helpful for sure.
Yeah, when can you do that? That's my question. When can you do that? So I don't want to go out tomorrow morning in that
I
fine.
won't be done by tomorrow morning.
By the weekend, Monday?
Yes, I'll have it flagged up right here by Monday morning.
Great, okay.
I know what I'm doing Saturday.
Just for some final
Okay.
clarification before we move on here. We're gonna have a hearing on this. Our fire department will be here. You seemed like, Mr. D, you seemed like you were getting at, you wanted a full survey done of it, and then you said, no, I don't.
No,
So
and
guess I'm a
I
little
apologize
I
if,
guess I'm a little confused
Yeah, I
as to what you're
apologize.
looking for there.
no,
'cause
I was
to
never.
me, you just said you don't have enough information to make a decision on this, and then you finished saying, well, we don't need to do any of that.
No, there was some assumptions that were being made from that side of the table that I objected to because It's not, we don't know that to be fact.
That I would agree with.
We know that it's probably pretty close.
Correct. So you're comfortable with the information that we have, but you would certainly want it verified and,
Well, 100%. So
Yeah.
the verification of that is not the issue as much as public comment and
Correct.
to hear what folks have to say about this.
okay, that's fair.
That's where I'm coming from. But I apologize. I never meant to imply that I wanted a full survey done and I wanted to know exactly where everything
Just as
was.
long as we were on the same page.
Because
That's all.
we don't need that at this point, and nor are we in a position to want that right now.
I agree. All right, fantastic. All right.
So there's no scheduled sidewalk, you're gonna do your own thing, I guess.
We
is-
want,
okay.
do we want a site walk or just do our own thing on this? one?
do our
I think
own
this is
thing.
one where we can certainly,
Okay.
do our own thing. on
Please
it.
get permission from the
I would,
property
I would
owners.
talk to, yeah, I was gonna say, I would talk to the
Otherwise, you're
landowner.
trespassing. Thank you.
Correct.
Which is another,
Trespassing on a public class 6 road.
You're gonna walk up to the property?
No, which property owners? It's a Class 6 road, so
Saying
it's a
if you're
public
going to
right-of-way.
go onto the parcel at all,
Yes,
please get permission from the owner.
fair enough. We can do that.
From this owner?
The owner of record.
Can we walk on your property?
We don't own it.
They don't own it.
They don't own
Yes.
it.
Fantastic,
The owner of,
fantastic.
no, he's not the owner of
Don't
record.
own it
No.
yet.
They don't own it yet. This is why I'm saying this out loud.
We'll
I
make,
thought he owns it. He just sounded like he owned it back there.
I'm Russell Goldman, I'm the applicant.
Okay, never mind. Thank you.
I'll make sure
If you could
that
reach out-
everybody's notified, okay?
If you could reach out to the appropriate party and let them
Sure.
know that they should expect 12
Sure.
people on their property separately within the next 84 hours.
Absolutely.
Appreciate
I'll
it.
let them know right away.
Fantastic, thank you.
Is there anything else that the board needs information about that you can think of at the moment?
Think I'm good? Board, we good?
there were, and I apologize, I don't know what the conversations were, but there were some third-party conversations that you had that said something to the effect, and I will review the recording to kind of get it, but there were some third-party conversations you had that said something to the effect of, you are good to do this if you follow X, Y, Z. I forget what exactly it was, but you made some type of comments regarding, and I'm not trying to kind of trip you up or anything like that. I'm trying just to
trying
kind
to
of clear it
remember.
up, but it was like
Can I
Is that
chime
from the
in?
fire inspector?
I think what it
wasn't the
was,
fire inspector.
No?
It was a conversation you had with the state, something with
Oh,
the
the
state.
state fire
Client
marshal.
met with
The
the
state
fire
fire
marshal
marshal.
out there, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
And
so
that's what I've been told. So we're happy to work with the local fire department. I think that because he knows that those variances are an option in an individual case like this, that was the recommendation that he seek an opinion from them.
Okay,
Because
so
they have
in
the
that,
final
so in that
say.
case, that would be something that we would, it was said earlier, and I very much want to repeat it, our town staff is, the ones that kind of all filters through. So if they have, a satisfactory opinion on that, I just want to ensure that that gets all filtered appropriately through the right channels and filtered back up to us.
And you know what's really difficult with the fire codes too is they're not publicly available. You have to buy the fire codes from what I understand. So I can't point to something, or I would have brought you evidence to show where those variances are located. They're
Fair
just
enough. We're
really
gonna,
hard to work with.
I'm perfectly satisfied that
Okay.
the next time that we meet, we'll have, kind of the recommendations from the appropriate fire.
is it a code, is it a fire code or a fire standard?
It's a code, and
Is it
NFPA
an
is a
actual
code,
code
right,
or?
Bob?
'cause
Yeah.
I know
He knows more about
the NFPA gets discussed a lot about, but the NFPA is basically a very fancy recommendation. So is this a fire code or a standard?
NFPA, my understanding, is a code, and they have chapters, residential, commercial, multifamily. From my understanding, it's a code, but you look at ASHTO codes, they'll start as recommendations, but everybody follows them, and usually town regs will say you need to meet this.
You need to meet the NFPA.
You need to meet
standard of
NFPA.
Yep. Yep.
Just like your planning board rules, if you,
Yep.
unless you can demonstrate a hardship, you have to comply.
Correct. Fantastic.
Yes.
All right.
Thanks,
And
Mr.
that's
One other real short note,
Yep, I'm all set.
there is some previous flagging out there. So I'll hang multiple colors, and I'll make them real long, and there's nothing, I won't put in stakes, but I'll hang it from the nearest tree branch to say this is about where the property ends. Yellow and orange, maybe I'll throw in some red, so I'll make it obvious.
Sure. Fantastic. Thank you, folks.
Okay, so we'll wait for a public hearing notice, and you can let me know what you need from us, Kelly.
Yep,
You
I'll
have my-
follow up with you on the dates that
Okay.
Okay.
are available.
That would be great, and we can get you whatever you need on that. So it's just a public notice, not a butter notices.
Correct.
Okay, okay. And just for the record with the board, all the information I got was from your minutes when I studied them. They actually were very well done, better than most towns, to be honest with you. There's much more detail in there. There was a lot of
Thank you.
thought put into this back in 2016.
Thank you.
Okay,
I appreciate it.
okay, we'll see you soon. Thank you.
We'll see you soon. Thank you. All right, second item tonight is a conceptual, non-binding discussion for a site plan to construct a 60-unit multifamily building along with associated improvements, 196 and 198 Rockingham Road, map 15, lot 60 and 60-1, zone C2, and Route 28 Performance Overlay District. S&S Metals Recycling, 196 Rockingham Road is the owner, and Gino Bernard is the applicant. And if we could just make note that Mr. Varani is back
board.
on the board here. Not a problem. They're not really voting on anything, but I guess I don't need to make an appointment because we're not voting.
Yeah, actually, the end.
But, oh, yeah, you know what, I will, with Ann stepping down, I will appoint, Mr. DeFrancesco to vote for Ann.
Are you voting?
Not on this.
No voting.
We do have an appointment tonight, though, that would,
So you're not voting on this?
yep, absolutely. Evening, folks, how are
Good
you?
evening. My name is George Chadwick. I'm with Bedford Design. We're here tonight representing Gino Bernard, as the chair had mentioned. We're here to discuss a conceptual 60-unit market rate apartment complex. It's located on the S&S Metal Recycling site on Rockingham Road. I think we all know where that is. Parcel's 3.9 acres in size, Zone C2 with the Route 28 overlay zone. The overlay zone is what allows the residential use. I would need a CUP in order to do that. As I stated, it's a 60-unit project. It is a 3-story building with the front of the building facing the parking lot to the west. So the end of the building faces, or the narrowest part of the building faces Rockingham Road. As part of the project, we will be cleaning up, and this project is a part of the cleanup of the site. What we plan on doing is, and I have Andrea here from the Turner Company to discuss the environmental aspects of it, but what we're doing is looking to construct the building and the parking in an area where we have found some materials. Projects on municipal water and
If you
sewer.
could be a little more specific, when you're talking
We
materials and
will,
cleanup.
I'll let her speak to
Okay.
that in a minute.
Fair, thank you.
The project will be on water and sewer. As you can see on the concept plan, the lot will be well landscaped. We did take a look at your landscape regulations, so this depicts pretty much what'll be out there for landscaping. It's not a pretty picture. We did look at your regulations and the requirements of that. If you could go to the building elevation next. We did have Warren Street Architects work with us on the project, and they prepared some elevations of what the building would look like. It is a peaked roof structure, has several gables on it. The facade has two separate types of materials, as well as color and some banding around the middle of the project between the second and third floor.
Love those belly bands.
Say that again?
Love the belly bands.
As I stated, this is part of the cleanup, so why don't I let Andrea speak to the main concern I think the board may have, and that is the issue out there and how we plan on cleaning it up.
Hi, I'm Andrea Kenter. I'm the Director of Environmental Services at John Turner Consulting. It's a local consulting firm. As you're probably well aware, this property has been developed in 1972, so it's been in operation for quite a while. It was a automotive garage for many, many years until Vic Salamini bought it in '96, I believe. My past company, started the environmental work with Vic in 2017. He had a series of letters from the DES, needed assistance with those, and we have helped him. A former coworker of mine helped him step through some of the rules and regulations. There's a if you could bring up the site plan maybe with the, this will work. This is the one that one that you just had. Thank you. So this is an overlay of George's conceptual design with the existing monitoring well network that is out there. There have been a series of investigations that have taken place. There, to date, I believe, 13 monitoring wells on the site. I just recently filed a groundwater management permit with DES for the property. That would stay in effect until it meets state groundwater standards. I have worked at many salvage yards throughout New Hampshire, and to be honest with you, this one, while visually it's not great, from an environmental standpoint, it's not that bad. He currently receives funding for his monitoring and investigations, and the current driver is MTBE out there in groundwater. The red contours that you see on the plan show where the MTBE issue is on the site. So you can see it would be to the west of the conceptual building within the parking lot area. So there are key monitoring wells that would have to remain until until the site meets standards. There have been a series of small excavations that were done out there, which are those very colorful polygons on the plan. So there have roughly 1,000 tons of soil have come off the site in a series of small excavation work. Vic applied for some funding from the MTBE Bureau in 2017, 2018, and again in 2021, and received funding to put in some very large concrete pads for his dismantling and crushing operations. So those were put in as best management practices. And you can see where the bulk of the MTBE is where those pads aren't. So they did very good job of keeping his operations at bay, I think. What else can I tell you about this? It received state funding from two pots of money, the MTBE fund and then the Ether fund. To date, there's been about $350,000 that's been spent to do improvements, monitoring, investigations, that sort of thing. The groundwater management permit, I anticipate that to be issued fairly soon. I submitted it at the end of last year, and that will formalize the monitoring going forward on the site, and that would be transferable to a new owner, and would be he'd be held to making sure that the monitoring and reporting occurs. Anybody, I can go into a lot of detail on numbers and concentrations and that sort of thing, but I think just that's a good concept.
Mr. D.
Is that the transferable part, is that a new thing? I didn't realize that those were transferable.
Sure, no, they are, they always have been.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
There's a certain time frame when when a new purchaser acquires a property that has a groundwater management permit. I believe there's a 30-day period where it should be transferred.
Got it, thank you.
Arthur.
Who does the monitoring of the wells?
We do.
Do you?
Yep.
Okay. Over the past 8 years, what have the levels been? Or what's the trend?
The trend is downward, actually. Currently, the standard for MTBE is 13 parts per billion. Vic has 3 monitoring wells that are just nominally above standard. Current MTBE concentrations are between 13 and 20.
Do you have those graphed out?
I do. Yeah, I could
Can
certainly.
you provide that or
Sure.
send it to Kelly? And she
Sure,
could,
absolutely.
distribute? I'm
Yep.
a biochemist, so
Yep.
I'm very familiar with the MTBE.
Yep.
so
I've got tables and I've got some time concentration graphs that I could send.
That
yeah.
would be very beneficial.
Mr. Verani.
Just for our edification, what is an MTBE?
MTBE was an additive to gasoline. Primarily in the 70s, it was used as an anti-knock agent for fuel. And then it was eventually banned from gasoline, and it's the bane of New Hampshire groundwater.
And could I ask another question about that? Does that transfer, like, spread in the soils? Or is it contained to where those monitoring wells are?
It can be in soil. It can sorb to soil particles. The soil, there have been many, many soil tests that have been done here. And to date, I believe his soil petroleum problems in his soil are fine. They meet soil standards. So it's
There is-
primarily a dissolved issue with groundwater.
I'm just concerned with that, where the Coas Brook is right next to it. Is it fair to say that if it's there where your monitoring wells are, it's leaching into the Coas Brook?
No. We, in fact, this past summer in June, we put in 3 more monitoring wells at the request of the state at the toe of the slope, and then the farthest down gradient wells. And those are looking,
12 and 13.
yeah, there's a piezometer, a PZ1, 12 and 13 were the new ones.
Okay, so it's not in the Coas Brook at this point?
And I believe I have soil samples from 2 out of 3 of those new locations, drill locations.
Andrea, do you sample Cohasset Brook?
We have not,
Yeah.
no.
The only thing I'd worry about, because MTBE is very miscible with water.
It is.
Loves to travel with water.
Yes.
And it's a favorite in liquid chromatography.
Yep.
Very handy
Yep.
compound.
So,
It's always usually on the leading edge of a gasoline issue. The site does have some benzene in groundwater, but that's not the driver on the site. And the benzene tends to flop above standard and below standard. So it's,
So everything I'm hearing is for a junkyard, it's pretty clean.
it is. You have another one in town, Murray's? That's not. They're complete opposites. Yeah.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir.
So, this property is gonna transfer ownership, yes? And so my understanding is that the new owner will be the new responsible party as far as the state is concerned, and will be responsible for whatever is found later on or whatever.
Generally, that's the case. I'm not privy to what their purchase and sale agreement will be, but generally that liability transfers to a new owner.
And the
The
reason
state-
for that is because the state used to go after the previous responsible party and couldn't. And so then the rule changed and they said, no, you bought it, you own it, we're dealing with you.
And again, typically, I certainly have a host of, Getty, for example. Getty retained liability on all of their old all of their old real estate. So even though those parcels have sold, Getty is still the responsible party.
Understood.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep.
I got a follow-up. So you didn't test the brook, but you made the statement that it's not in the brook.
Based on groundwater levels in monitoring wells or piezometers close to the brook, I'm pretty confident it's not in the brook. But you're correct. There have not been surface water samples collected from Coos Brook.
All right, I just want to make that clear.
Yep.
Okay.
So is the idea here, I just want to make sure I understand this, because there's wells all over the property. Is the idea is that you'd wait for it to come down to normal and then you would build on it? Or is that, oh, they would build right here, okay, I see. Okay. So the idea would be, do it now and then pave over some of these wells?
Development can proceed by all means, but there has to be a monitoring well network that is kept. It may be a subset of these 13 locations, but there would be some subset of that which the state would require until groundwater meets ambient groundwater quality standards.
So the state is still in control of this?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
So there's nothing to, it sounds to me that there's no like needed excavation of this contaminated soil.
There have been excavations and those have
Yeah, I see
focused
that.
on hot spots where there was a known issue. If during the course of development, let's say, an area where excavation hasn't occurred before, they're putting in their retention pond or something like that, and they find something, by all means, it could be tested and funding could be obtained to deal with it. But to date, those colorful areas have been excavated and their margins meet standards, soil standards. So we currently don't know of any more hotspots, but if they're found, they could be dealt with.
Who finds them?
That's a good question, too.
State on site? when you
No,
do an
no,
excavation?
no,
That's
no.
what I'm getting at is.
So
No.
is the developer tasked by the state to send them samples? Is
No, the DES won't have anything to do with driving that. It would be a cooperative venture between the developer and myself or the environmental consultant.
And they would be part of the project moving forward.
So, can I ask John?
so-
So how does that work?
So for instance, I think, Andrea, the only spot that I could see that you might get into some hot areas is where George is proposing the stormwater basin, right? And those in the vicinity of MW 11. What's the depth of groundwater there? Any idea?
Actually, the site's very interesting from a geologic or a hydrogeologic standard. Bedrock is very shallow in the area where he's proposing his building. It's 3 to 4 feet below grade and slopes quite steeply down to the west.
Yeah.
To the point where those wells, bedrock was not encountered to 20-plus feet.
Gotcha.
So it's a pretty steep bedrock surface, groundwater as well. Groundwater is very shallow, where he's got the pads in the building.
Yeah.
And water's 11, 12, 13 feet deep on the western part of the site.
So, yeah, so again, so they may not hit groundwater, right? So again, if they have to pump groundwater and the groundwater might be hot, they put it into a frac tank. Put it into the frac tank, they test the water, does it exceed the limits? If it doesn't, they can discharge it.
Who is it that's
Who's maintained,
that's
who's?
monitoring that to see if it's hot or not?
Well,
Or is it just going off-site?
Very similar to what they're doing on Gilchrist Road. There's an environmental person there that's observing and sampling the materials, confirming that the top 12 inches of the,
But the testimony was that the state wouldn't be there, would not be
No,
there.
they
No,
would be part of the project,
Oh,
they said.
they will.
would.
DES would only become involved if they receive notification from myself or another environmental person that says, hey, we've got a problem, can you come look at it?
So you
They're
will
not
be-
gonna be policing.
So you will be on site testing.
I won't be there every day overseeing what he's doing with redeveloping the project. I'm gonna rely upon the developer to call me and notice me that they've encountered something unusual. You might.
I don't know how you would know. You dig down and the ground is blue?
I guess that's,
How-
I guess
how do
that's
you-
what I'm
how do
not
you-
Well,
understanding.
in this case, it's a petroleum site, so visual and olfactory evidence are gonna be pretty clear.
I've been on sites that they've actually exploded, they've caught fire.
Yeah, yeah.
So-
I'm aware of that, but it's.
It's obvious.
Sounds very self-policing.
Yeah.
Kind of a.
Live free or die.
Just a little concerned.
Yeah,
So it's not.
I'm sorry?
I don't know why I'm having trouble wrapping my head around this, but it sounds like you think you have a relatively clean site that is below the standards, but there's a good possibility that the site could be a mess and you just don't know it yet? Am I the only one that's getting that?
I get that too.
So the,
That's
but,
what it sounds like to me.
But the-
So,
Kelly,
I think what you're asking is, how do you regulate it? And to me, that's a condition of approval, should you get to that point, that says the developer is required to monitor this, which it sounds like they're going to do anyway, but if you wanted to ensure that, you would form a condition that says that very clearly.
okay.
and the
So they
thing,
can send the data to the town would, hold that data.
yeah, I mean,
Even
you
value.
know.
so the thing that I'm looking at here, because we're talking about a redevelopment of this site, is that this is getting looked at and possibly mitigated, as opposed to if this doesn't
Stay.
happen, it stays.
Yeah,
And it continues
agree.
to get polluted, and it continues to be a junkyard.
I do agree with that.
So, I mean, I think that's what we're talking about here, not necessarily where the MTB is and all of that stuff. It's,
And
does it get cleaned up or does it not get
Yeah,
cleaned up?
and I guess that's ultimately what I'm getting at, is making sure we have a mechanism to make sure it's monitored and mitigated.
Yeah, and my comments come from Londonderry, full of sites with asbestos on it that disappeared from other sites of companies that were supposed to be self-monitoring.
That, exactly.
And it disappeared from Hudson, and it showed up in Londonderry by magical transporter. And so, because people find something and it disappears, and no one knows about it. But I would be comfortable with some kind of a note on the plan at Kelly's suggestion, at staff's suggestion, that I would be comfortable with that.
Yeah. Would you
And-
see it being an independent third party?
Uh,
I think that would be the safest.
Jeff?
Protect
Well, I was
us
just gonna
too.
say, with this being a conceptual, right, and
Yeah.
as they're going through the design process, a lot of that feedback, including from the Conservation Commission and such, will start to kind of emerge, and
Yeah.
those plans will be definitely formalized, but, I mean, me personally, as one member, not really too keen on self-reporting and self-monitoring, so if there was kind of an opportunity to kind of, trust, I said it to applicants before, trust but verify, that kind of aspects, working that into the initial kind of plan as you go through design review, that may be something to definitely consider.
Sure. And, for the record, we can state that, Turner will be part of the project. They'll be monitoring the construction as we go through. Anything that does turn up, or we can have all the reports sent to the town as well, just like we do SWIP reports and other things in town, or around.
Yeah, and I thank you for that, and I would say, thank you, Mr. Chair, that I would say that you've heard the comments from several members of the board, and so come back to us with something
Come
concrete.
game time. Come game
You know
time,
what the
come up with a
concern
plan.
is.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
between us and staff, come up with something that you think would be amenable, because right now, we're kind of like, we kind of don't like this self-regulating thing, but,
Sure.
and then whatever you come back with, and we'll see what happens from there.
Giovanni?
So I'm sure you'd probably like us to get off the topic of environmental, so.
Yeah. Thank you.
So I'm gonna go to your plan. You're right, you can do multifamily with a conditional use permit. But my understanding was that you have to restrict your building size to 16-unit buildings, and staff could correct me if I'm wrong on that.
No, you are correct. And we would be asking for a CUP of that as well.
Can we do that?
So the multifamily use is permitted by conditional use permit. In addition to that, there's a conditional use permit process that allows the planning board to grant up to 20 units per building. The question remains, though, as to whether a variance is needed, because this building is proposing 60 units in one building. So that's something that I need a determination on from the zoning administrator.
So it almost sounds like it would need to go to zoning.
Potentially, yeah.
So, I mean, you have, first, we have the discretion to say, yes, is a good use for the site as multifamily. And then, if that's the case and they stop there, it's a 16-unit building, or multiple, if they can fit that. And then, from there, we have to go, they have to go get a variance from that?
I think if I'm understanding Kelly correctly, it's a 16-unit building. We could, through conditional use, allow 20 units.
Yeah.
Anything above that would make sense that it would have to go for a variance.
Is
Which
this
you'd have
something
to
that,
provide hardship for, right, and prove the other points?
5 points a lot, yeah.
Yeah.
is that something that would be addressed? We are looking at this area. Like if we were to adjust that.
I'm not sure I'm tracking what you're saying.
Overlay?
Yeah, I'm sorry, yeah, the overlay,
So if
like,
the
is that-
overlay district's removed, this use is not permitted.
Correct,
by
yeah,
Oh,
this
okay,
would
I
not
gotcha.
be a permitted use without
Alright,
the
gotcha.
overlay. I know we've only talked on kind of the environmental side of this. Do you have anything you'd like to discuss or present on with regards to building size and whatnot?
As I stated, I've given you some elevations, and it is a 3-story, 60-unit structure. I do hear regarding the possibility of obtaining a variance for the number of units. It is located 100 feet away from the right-of-way, and based on the building size, square footage-wise, that is the appropriate setback. The rear and side are appropriately set back as well. We have 120 parking spaces at 2 parking spaces per unit. I believe I can handle all the drainage, but again, we're here conceptually. I haven't got into all the details.
Let me ask you a question. What is your logic or reasoning behind one 60-unit building?
Yeah.
As opposed to 3 20-unit buildings?
What we tried to do is locate the building and the parking in the area that we noticed there may be some, or may have been, some issues. As far as breaking up it into much smaller buildings, there would be a separation associated with it. The number of units really is driving the ability to move forward with this project. Not only the cost of the land and the cleanup and potential issues that may arise. So we did sort of take all those factors into account. Now, I know financial doesn't have anything to do with you folks, but that is sort of what's driving, the 60 units is sort of driving the bus at this point. We did, I didn't mention it, but there'll be a little gazebo or something put out in front of the building as well, to give a little meeting place for people to sit be outside.
Is the gazebo the only community aspect in that property that you're looking at right now?
We haven't looked really closely as to what amenities will be inside the building. Exteriorly, yes, that's all we've got at this point is the gazebo and some sidewalks to walk on and things of that sort.
Yeah, because, I mean, obviously it's conceptual. That's why we're here.
Yep.
Have you looked at our master plan, and how does this conceptual drawing relate to what's in our master plan?
I guess tonight I really can't, I've looked at the master plan several times. I've done quite a few projects in town. I did not, for this particular project, sit there, pull out the master plan and see how it fits or doesn't fit.
Okay.
And I will do that.
All
I
right,
certainly can. do
definitely
that.
appreciate that, and, any adjustments that you can make, but one thing that we would definitely want to do, and what's important to our community and community members, is a sense of community within the, new developments. I'm not seeing that here, and again, it's conceptual, we get into the details, and I do know that there is, you've mentioned that there's an economic reason for this, so, I respect that, I appreciate that, and thank you. But, I'm looking at that, I'm looking at future, residents, I'm assuming, these are rentals.
Yes, they will be.
So, very transitional, but there should be, if I'm playing Legos here, I'm definitely building a center, I'm definitely building some type of concept to kind of show a community aspect of that property.
Thank you, Jeff. Anything else from the board, Mr. D?
So it seems to me, Kelly, that if they want this building, their next step is ZBA, not here? Or is it here, then ZBA?
I would recommend that they get the conditional use permit for the use prior to
Before going
getting
to
a
ZBA.
variance. That's what I'd recommend. Ultimately, they can decide what they want to do. I would imagine from a cost standpoint, that would make the most sense. But again, I would want our zoning administrator to make a formal determination on that. The need for the variance. that is.
Anything else from the board, Art? You had your hand up.
Yes, just want to speak to the design. Thank you, Mr. Chair. What you have with the big building, to me, is just too monolithic looking. It's just, doesn't do it. I think one possibility is to break it up into smaller units with different design or different colors on it. It would probably go better, but I think, you could probably get, 4 separate units and meet, have at least 16 in each one. But as far as the single building, it just doesn't cut it with me. You need to break it up. Just
So Art, are you saying that you would prefer 4 separate structures? Or are you
I
saying
think what he was saying.
visually
I think visually he's
make
looking at
it
a
look
facade.
like 4
I
separate?
think is what
right,
he
you
was
could
saying.
either do 4 separate structures, or you could just break it up into 4 different like units, at least to give it a little bit of variation, a little bit of differentness about it.
So Kelly, can you bring the elevation up again? Just so I understand, please.
To me, it looks like a monolith.
Yeah.
Not very desirable.
So you're saying break, for example, the top view is the one facing the parking lot. Break that up sort of in
So it
4
feels like it's a few
separate.
different sections, yeah.
It's
Okay.
different. I'm not crazy about a big building like that, because I think there's inherent dangers in regards to, fire and so forth. But definitely, if it's gonna be a big building, break it up, make it look different.
And that also goes back to the point of the sense of community, which is definitely within the master plan.
I think architecturally, there's quite a bit of work to do on it.
Okay, no, I appreciate that. Appreciate the words.
I think matching in with some of the neighboring structures that have got brick aspects to them and stuff like that would be very beneficial.
It's for the architect to be creative.
I see
this being a beneficial use given what's there right now, and a much better use of the land than what is there now. Personally, I don't know, I think I think it's a little too soon to tell, but I feel like 60 units is a lot inside of this area. Obviously, that's kind of a whole nother ballgame. It sounds like you're more than likely gonna need a variance just to get those 60 units, so you'll have the ZBA to contend with, before you even get here. But I agree the use is good, I'm just not sure about the density of it. I understand what you said earlier, given economics is not something we're talking about. I understand that the density is a driving factor to
Sure.
the amount of work that is more than likely gonna be involved in cleaning the site and making it what it's not today, I understand.
Right.
Obviously, this, I would assume, gonna have a traffic study associated with it.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of talk about 28 lately, and the amount of other things kinda
So
in the
just to be
twilight zone
clear,
on 28
the
right now.
expectation for traffic would be to have some type of joint study or collaboration between what the board has seen so far, conceptually, which is this project is 60 units. There's 225 Rockingham Road, which is being discussed at anywhere from 40 to 48 units. There's 222 Rockingham Road, which is 48 units. Again, those are conceptual. And then you also have to keep in mind that you have an assigned approved plan for 130 townhomes at the Vista location. So the expectation would be to make sure that we're considering all of those if this moves forward.
There's things that are under construction that are be getting COs this spring, this summer, so we're talking over 300 trips, or, 300 residential units between Smith Lane and Exit 5.
Right there, yeah.
I think we need some
That
info on.
kinda reflects back to the density I'm talking about.
Sure.
And I just want to reiterate again, because I know it's going to be put out somewhere. The 3 ones I listed first are conceptual only.
Yeah, that's sort of my question. What's the likelihood of those moving forward? I know one of them, but the other ones,
Which one do you know?
225.
What's the
225.
likelihood of that one moving forward?
I'm not going to speak to it right now.
No, so
What I can tell you
just
from-
for the record, he knows about one and doesn't want to talk about it, but he's asking you for the likelihood of ones that he doesn't know about, just for the record.
Just to be
Am I
clear,
correct?
I don't
So-
have any design
Perfect.
review or formal application for the
Fantastic.
conceptual projects I cited. They've only been to this board conceptually.
Thank you.
But what would be helpful for the board to state, or at least give the staff direction, is that when we speak to these 3 applicants, you want to see one comprehensive study.
Yeah, I mean, they have to be.
Yes, yes.
Thank you.
Similar to how we handled Gilchrist.
You say when, but it's more of an if. When, what is the,
Right. What's the likelihood of the
We're
other
going
one?
to see how serious they are.
yeah.
So in the process of that, thank you, is that when they apply, when they submit formal application, you all as a staff are gonna tell them, when you do your a traffic study is required. When you do it, we want you to do,
Yeah.
plug
Typically,
in these numbers for these things that may happen.
well, actually, what we would do is we would have a traffic scoping meeting and we would have all those parties present.
Got it.
Is
Thank you.
the ideal scenario.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And so just for the general public, when Kelly says conceptual, that means this board has not approved that many units. That many housing units has not been approved for the town of Londonderry. Applicants have come in to talk about it, just like we're doing right now, and this project has not been approved. So the number of units that have been approved is not as much as it seems, because they haven't been approved.
At this time.
And if you, at this minute, this snapshot in time, it has not been approved. So,
None of the, I think it's 4, this is the 4th one that's come conceptually, correct?
The
The third.
Third.
None of the
Third
3
one.
that have come conceptually, there have been 0 approvals on any of that. That's correct.
And there've been 0 design or formal applications submitted to the planning
Submitted
department.
on any of those 3 applications.
Okay, just gotta get that out there.
Yes.
Thank you. Anything else from the board? Seeing none?
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Really appreciate the board's time tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Other business. Master Plan Steering Committee appointments. We had Mr. Breslin in the last go-around. Excuse me, guys. Mr. Breslin was in a few weeks ago. There was another applicant that applied, and our chair of the Master Plan Committee was at the time absent. The board made a decision to give the other applicant an chance to come discuss, as well as, more importantly, the chair of the Master Plan Committee being here to aid in our decision. With that, we've spoken to Ray. Is Lisa here? Is that?
Mr. Chair,
Yes,
I need
sir.
to recuse myself. This is my one friend.
It's a no.
As one friend.
Since this is a voting matter, I know we already have Mr. D voting for Ann. I'll have you vote in lieu of Jason. Sure. Hi, how are you?
Good evening.
Good evening. Welcome.
Thank you.
So, Lisa, sounds like you have an interest in the Master Plan Steering Committee. If you want to talk to us a little bit and tell us about yourself, why you're interested, all that good jazz.
Sure. Currently, I am an alternate on the zoning board. I'm a 30,
I'm sorry, could we do name and address, please?
Oh, yeah.
Lisa Sussman, 128 Hardy Road.
Thank you, it's for,
Understood.
know what I mean, thank you.
Resident of Londonderry for 34 years. My husband and I live here. Excuse me, my 2 daughters and my grandchildren live in Londonderry. So I'm very concerned about the growth of the town, what I have seen over the last 30-plus years, the explosion in building, et cetera. And my way to get involved, hopefully, is to become a part of the committee and see what I can contribute.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions for Ms. Sussman?
I got a few. Hi, Lisa.
Hi.
My name's Jeff. I'm the chair of the Master Plan Steering Committee. So it's a great group. We have a few members here this evening. Have you been following what we've been doing and kind of where we are?
Bits and pieces.
Okay.
I've been on the website and I've pulled up the plan and I've read through the original plan from 2004 or 5-ish.
2012.
Okay, and
Yeah.
well, then it was amended.
Yep.
Then it was amended again.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, I have read through it, and I guess one of my questions to the board would be what would be expected of me as a volunteer on the committee, and what would my involvement be?
Yes, actually, great question, and thank you. So currently, we meet monthly. We are working with the Southern New Hampshire Planning Commission to kind of update our current master plan. It's the 3rd Thursday of the month.
Okay.
What the most important and what I have been advocating for, and if others within the committee can definitely kind of either vouch or discredit it, is we need is community outreach and impact. So this is a shared community plan, and it's only as good as the community that does have the that input into it. So what we've done thus far is we had a community survey that was open for about 6 weeks. We received roughly 1,500 kind of responses, which for surveys is good if you take the average of other similar surveys and such. So we were good to get that feedback. With that feedback, we are drafting the first 3 chapters of the amended master plan. That those first 3 chapters, takes that input into it. We will then be releasing those 3 chapters for public review and comment, and then kind of going on a roadshow type to kind of like really say, this is the plan, what's missing, what do you like about it, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So that's a long-winded kind of, high-level view of kind of what we've done and where we're kind of going. But I do want to ask the question, because the committee does bring forward a lot of good, a lot of good experience and a lot of good community outreach. What are some ways that you would kind of contribute to that? How would you also kind of support our efforts to kind of raise the community profile and ensure that this is a community document? Like, what type of advocacy would you see yourself being best positioned to help us with?
It's kind of a tough one. I am retired, so I do have plenty of time on my hands to be able to engage with the community in various ways, perhaps at the senior center or old home days, or Londonderry Moms Facebook page is a great place for the community to connect. And any possible other way I could.
Excellent. Let me ask this question.
Okay.
You're being involved with the ZBA, so you do have kind of you are somewhat committed. Oh, no, you are committed. I apologize. What I'm trying to say is you've seen kind of the master plan kind of work, hopefully, like the work that we've done. You're kind of tuned into what's going on in the town, seeing social media posts and stuff like that. What would you, if you were a member of this committee in the last 3 to 6 months, however we've been here, what would you have liked to have seen us do better?
Well, for starters, the master plan, it's a set of guidelines, right?
Yeah, it's an advisory document that.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I don't mean to sound, it doesn't have much teeth in the sense of rules and, zoning and planning and things like that, correct? It's just a set of guidelines.
It definitely advises the planning board, and so when we do kind of go through and we do update if we get to the point of updating regulations, if that is, advised and such like that, it definitely has that kind of concept. So it's definitely more than like a marketing kind of document. It is something that we definitely take into account when we do look at.
So I think what bothers me as a resident is looking at the master plan, but then hearing all of these parties come to town wanting to build. And when I look at the master plan, it's supposed to be a place to grow and play and learn and be able to ride your bicycle and, have outdoor activities and a sense of community and things like this. But then I just keep seeing approval after approval after approval of building, these massive housing units. And I feel like the town is almost getting divided between folks that have been here for many, many years and young families that are coming in. They're trying to establish a home, but they're having a problem finding affordable housing. They're perhaps working long distance, maybe Boston, up north, and they're trying to find affordable housing, having trouble with that. So they're kind of restricted to, moving into these high density housing units. And so part of what I see is how do we bring kind of both sides together, where we have the folks that really know what Londonderry was like back when there wasn't 100 zillion traffic lights everywhere and all of that, versus now, 102 is a raceway, and, there's, the police log just gets longer and longer and longer every day, and, how do we join those two factions together?
Right. How do how do we tell the story of that celebrates the past, kind of
Yeah.
really kind of like, respects the current state, but also plans for that future?
Yeah.
Yeah. How do we kind of do that? Yeah, that's exactly kind of what, and it's the same thing we're wrestling with, right? We're definitely seeing, seeing that. And that's what I kind of really like about the committee and, kind of the work that, we're doing here. So, thank you for your answers. Awesome. Great.
You're welcome.
Any other questions?
Anything else from the board?
I feel the need to have clarification, Mr. Chair.
Sure.
That's okay with you?
Yep.
So, I'm one of those people that have been here for a long time. I got here in 1978. Crossroads had a blinking yellow light. That was it. All the way to Hudson, all the way to 93. High Range Road North was a dirt road.
Yeah.
Okay, so I've seen quite a bit.
Yeah.
So the part about building puts a land use board like this in a difficult situation. And it's the same thing with the master plan and the master plan steering committee being advisory, okay? The understanding that needs to happen is that the landowner is a taxpayer and has rights also. If the state law, RSAs, they're called the, they're called the RSAs, allows building, and the town regulations allow building,
I know.
then they get built. And so the difference now, and I said this a few meetings ago, is that we used to say we used to say that there was certain parcels that were non-buildable, certain tracts of land that were non-buildable. But that phrase is a financial phrase. They were non-buildable because financially it didn't work, right? As soon as the average home, a developer could put a house on a single lot in Londonderry at $780,000, turned it into a buildable lot, because now a developer who was the person that owned the land had the right to build a house, and financially it made sense to that person. So a lot of this building that you see is happening on what was formerly called non-buildable lots, non-buildable land. But understand that it was for financial reasons, not that that you weren't allowed to put anything on it. Financially, it just didn't work. And so that's where we are today. Your comments are very cogent and very succinct, and it's a concept and a philosophy that could possibly help turn it around. However, you're talking about changing RSAs at the state level and changing regulations at a town level. Both of those things are possible, but it takes a lot of work. And working inside, how slow a municipality works. And so that's where we are today. But I appreciate you stepping up, and I was very impressed by your answer, so thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Rugg, I believe you had a question.
Yes, thank you very much for showing interest in the town's development and everything. And like Tony, I think your answers were terrific. So I feel impressed. But if you had one single thing that you could do to help the town improve, what would be that one thing?
The list is long. oh gosh, this is a tough one. One single thing for the town to improve. Oh, I have 10 answers came to mind immediately.
You can say all 10, you just asked for one.
Well, I think she already touched on it.
You're thinking, which I think is a good attribute, so that's.
I mean,
Yeah.
there's not enough, the restaurants, they're horrible. Shopping, no. Bikeable area, for kids to ride their bikes to and from school. Can't do it anywhere in town unless you're on the rail trail or the path connecting the middle school to the high school to Matthew Thornton. That's about it. Speed limit in town. I mean, people just are speeding all over town like crazy. No adherence to stop signs, traffic lights, anything. Down at my corner, I stop at my stop sign, a newly installed stop sign within the last 3 years-ish, and people just routinely blow through it. So I look left, right, then I go.
It keeps the neck limber.
Yeah. Trying to get, when I pick up my granddaughter from North School, trying to get from Sanborn Road and make a left on 28 to go to my house, that sometimes I just get so frustrated, I make a right, and I go up to the light at, was it Page Road? Make a left and go all the way through Old Londonderry to go back to South Londonderry, because that turn is so bad. The list is endless.
It's good discussion.
Yeah, I didn't mean to rant, I'm sorry.
Anything else from the board? All right. Well, board, you have 2 applicants. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your
I appreciate it.
consideration.
And thank you for being Jason's friend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's a
He
good
is
guy.
that
all the time.
We have 2 applicants. How would the board like to proceed?
Chair, I will make a motion, see how it goes. I would like to extend the invitation to Lisa to be a member of the Master Plan Steering Committee.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
I have a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
What's up?
Nay. Opposed.
So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 in favor, 1 opposition, and then the
I
chair.
just want to state my reason,
One
is that Ray, he's so involved. I mean, he is here at every meeting, whether or not he's part of the board, he's always at the planning board meetings, and he's been involved in everything else, and I just think that he's committed to it, so.
And I would have to agree
I echo those
with
comments as well.
everything you have said. I am gonna vote in the affirmative for the sheer fact that the board is pretty much voting in the affirmative. I would say that if Ray was the candidate that was motioned for, I would have absolutely voted for Ray as well.
I just wanted to make sure that
So,
she didn't see us as anything personal, it's just that he's here all the time.
yeah, absolutely. And as a member of the master plan committee, I can assure you that Ray is there.
He'll still be there.
He will be, absolutely. So with that, thank you very much. Welcome to the Master Plan Steering Committee. We look forward to having you. And
April
does she need to get sworn in for that?
I
I don't think so.
don't believe
No.
so.
I don't think
No.
I.
Subcommittee.
Yeah.
It's a subcommittee.
Yeah. I would like to say there was a little bit of comment about the advisory part of the master plan. I do feel as though, while it is advisory, it does have a little bit more teeth than than we think, because in order to make changes to your regulations and whatnot, it has been proven through court cases that your master plan needs to also reflect what your zoning or your regulations are in general. And that
Yeah.
if your master plan does not align with your regulations, the regulations have the potential to be overridden, of which they have been in court, because they don't reflect what your master plan is. So I think there is a little bit more teeth there than just advisory, which is the original reason. We've all talked about regulatory change and changes that we'd like to see happen, and that's a lot of the reason why the master plan has come to where it is, because we want to make sure that that master plan meets what we're trying to do.
Yeah, Jake, that's a good point, and I definitely probably was one of the ones that really kind of drove home the advisory aspect, but it definitely serves as a roadmap for our community's future development. And so definitely a long-range policy document, so we definitely want, so
Absolutely.
very good insights there, Mr. Chair.
So the master plan does set the tone, and all of our, where ordinances have to be based upon, or at least our subdivision site plan regs have to be based upon it. But in reaching up a decision of the planning board, if you're based on solely the master plan, you go to court, you'll lose.
Correct. All right. Anything else from the board?
Wanted to bring one
Yes, sir.
thing up concerning the first plan, and I know I stepped down.
Yep.
And I'm not a direct abutter, but I am an abutter, and I do live on that road. So I won't give any comments with regards to some of the things that they represented there, although they weren't, 90% were not accurate. But I'll just say this, that as opposed to going out individually, I think we should do a group walk, because of the fact that the road isn't where the accessibility is. The accessibility is on private land. And I think it should be organized so that the abutters that live at the end of the road, or the people that live at the end of the road, don't have cars randomly parked in their barnyard, blocking the road, etc. I think that should be planned as one event. And with the, I know Kelly said that there was that we should get permission, but you cannot drive out to the land to get on the land. So you will have to park in a butter's property in order to walk the
That's
road.
actually why I said what I said.
I knew where you were going, and I think, but these folks, I think everybody rightfully thought that you can drive out to the land, park on the land, and you can't do that.
Gotta take my Jeep out there, no?
Yeah, good luck.
So just let me know if you want a formal site plan. Okay?
With the input, does the board have any input? Input to the input?
Whatever works.
You gotta see it. There's 40-foot elevation drops on that road, so.
Yeah.
I think since Giovanni is more familiar with the property and he's recommending a group, it sounds like it would kind of be weird, like, we might end up on the Facebook page saying, look at this weird guy walking through the woods.
Probably be the nicest thing that was
Yeah, I
ever
think
said.
I think it probably
I guess
be
if
the
we could,
better thing is.
if we could get a consensus from the board, whether we want to do it as a group or all together, would be a group or separate, would be appreciated. I'll start with Mr. D.
I don't need a group tour, I'm fine. I trespassed earlier today. Luckily, Mrs. Varani was on her horse and not target shooting. So, I'm fine.
I'd like to do a group. I actually found the group walk that we did last very helpful in many different ways. We got to hear a lot of opinions of the applicant, and just looking at it, it makes a big, I mean, you would agree, the last site walk, and I assume this would be the same, similar, beneficial.
Lynn?
Yeah, I guess given Giovanni's concern about the access to the walk is over private property, I would say, yeah, we probably want to do that as a group too, and do it the right way.
Mr. Rugg?
I would agree as a group, because I don't want to get accused of stealing any nice veggies there.
Yes.
Yeah, I echo the group sentiment.
Yeah, I think we'd learn more as a group in a discussion.
Gentlemen?
I'm good either way.
All right, sounds like a group walk it is. Look at that, we haven't done a site walk since before COVID, and now we're doing 2 in a month. So,
We'll send something out.
Yes. absolutely. Fantastic. All right. Anything else?
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we adjourn.
I have a motion to adjourn for Mr. Rugg for the record. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second for Mr. DeFrancesco for the record. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And the board is adjourned. Have a good night.